So, my name is Alexander Ermenkov, and I'm presenting to you Beyond Success Reality for Generational Wealth. This is part of my program that is 1 month, and this is a small looking into what is going to be in the day 2, where we are going to discuss the reality source of excess and scarcity. For me, it is very important to actually understand that in reality, generational wealth and wealth creation is not only about the physical materiality and how to gain the money. If we have the money, then everything is going to be okay. It is not working like this. There are so many things that are constantly working together. And that's why I'm creating this program called Beyond Success Reality, where I'm discussing more than 30 or 28 topics about reality. So I'm going to share again the screen, and maybe in order to bring you into the context, I can continue, and then I will share with you how the program is going to look like. I'm still creating it, but I'm very excited to speak about all these topics. Have you ever wondered why is excess actually allowed? Why some people are having so much and other people are having nothing? Alex, a lot of you are going to tell me, but we are constantly fighting for equality. If all the human beings have the same things all the time, what are we going to speak about then? Everything is going to be equal. Why this excess you are willing to strongly push that this is something normal? Why is excess allowed in our realities? Then we are going to speak about why does scarcity actually exist? Why we are brought into this reality with all these needs, and why we need to move and to value the scarce things and to go into survival mode of having more and more of what is scarce. No one of you in the moment is trying to hold to more stones because they are everywhere. None of you is trying to hold and to have much more grass at home because it's enough of it. And we're going to speak about the scarcity. We're going to speak also about what is an asset and how to find it, because the assets are the building blocks of wealth and having. If you have and surround yourself with things that create only additional costs for you, 100% it is going to bring you to less wealth and more disaster. Then we are going to speak about the true wealth, which is to be connected to the source of wealth. This is the first and the ultimate asset in all the reality. So if you want, we can deep dive in these 4 questions. So the first question is, why is excess allowed? The reality source of excess and scarcity. Excess or scarcity are sourced from the field of probabilities. That's why excess is allowed, because all possibilities are limitless, and then excess is possible for some that can tap into this limitlessness and can actually reveal more into the physical materiality. Then, Alex, why is scarcity actually inevitable? Because the moment we are brought here in this realm of the physical materiality, the first thing we notice once we become conscious that there are limitations. They create this feeling of scarcity. That's why you can never destroy scarcity. You can never obliterate the poor to be around, though all of us, the poor and the rich, has the same potential of excess and to be in all the possibilities and to be limitless, because all of us are limitless. It doesn't matter if you are poor and rich, we have the same primary asset of limitlessness. Then some are expressing more of this limitlessness into the limitation of the scarcity, and some are taking just everything around them as it is. Everything is scarcity. I am poor. Somebody else in the physical materiality need to do everything and all the things for me. And that's why scarcity is inevitable, because everyone can choose. Will we rely that something or somebody from the physical materiality is going to create some things for us, or are we going to tap into the realm and the field of possibilities and start manifesting the excess? So what is an asset and how to find it? There are two types of them. And first, we're going to speak about the external assets. So you're going to understand the UPSCR principle that I just created randomly and chaotically. So what it's all about. So the first asset is the universal asset. In the universal assets is where is the air. Does the rich and can the rich breathe more air than the poor? Can he drink more water than the poor? Can the rich one have a better climate than the poor in the same region I'm speaking? Of course, we know a lot of hubs in the moment around the world, close to the sea, where the rich people are trying to take hold of the climate. But do you know that there is not possible to be even a suburb of only rich people, because they need someone to sustain their wealth. They need services that can be provided only from a more poor population. And that's why all these groups of people will constantly exist together, and it is better for all of us to appreciate each other, because it doesn't matter if you are poor or rich, we need each other all the time, and we can be of value for each other constantly. We are sharing the same realm of the physical materiality. We are sharing the same climate. Sun is shining on the poor and on the rich. It is very important, because we don't want to speak about this thing consciously. And we are trying to create a lot of theories. But if you want long-term to be a person of generational wealth, and I am willing to convince you that it is actually good to have, it is actually good to have excess, and it can be of a benefit for all, even for those that are poor and are blaming the rich and saying, no, these rich people are the reason I am poor. I have been raised as a poor person with a working family, but I've never had been placed into my mind that long-term I'm going to be poor, or this is my destiny, or to be rich is something bad, or whatever. It doesn't matter if we're rich or poor. The important thing is to learn why everything in reality is working the way it is working. So the second type of assets from the external ones are the primary asset. Here we have everything that is on a primary level. Yes, if we say about the land, the dry part of the land is as much as it is. Is there equality there? Is it possible there to be equality? I tell you no. In the moment, maybe 1/3 or half of the humanity is living in the Pacific area close to China and India. And the most surface on the planet is in the hands of the Russian population, which is only 100 million. Basically, if we take away all our borders around us, then the land is a commodity primarily that is for all of us. But anyhow, because of this principle that is allowed, and in the beginning, all the human beings have been fighting for these lands, and now every type of nations have different kind of lands and so on and so on. So if I want to translate from my land and go into another land, I will be counted as a refugee, because in my land, for example, now there are droughts and there are a lot of famines or whatever. And we need to understand how everything is working, because it's not only the World Economic Forum, it is not only the United Nations, it is the global picture that is more and more posted into our awareness, and we need to answer a lot of questions. Is it better the land around the surface to belong to nobody, because it's not possible? So actually, it is going to belong to the government of the world. But if we allow this, then we will be constantly dependent. Just imagine the human being. We are constantly grounded and we are daily on a land. It is allowed in the moment I to have my own land and to know that when my feet are put on the ground, when I'm grounded, when I'm connected to source, it is on my own personal soil and ground. It doesn't belong to a government. Land is part of my power and identity as a human being. You're saying, no, Alex, this is not important. I don't want lands. I don't want houses. I don't want properties. I want to be 100% dependent upon everything that is there. I want the system to take care for me. There are such possibilities. But if you know why Bill Gates is buying a lot of land, because it is part of primary assets. Commodities like food, wheat, corn, coffee, energy, oil, coal, MPG, they are constantly in the news. Do you know why? Do you know that the biggest wealth transfer in humanity has happened during a famine, and actually everyone willingly gave everything they had in order to eat? Do you know that if there is famine only for 6 months in China, for example, where billions of people are living, they're going to sell everything they have. They're going to be in so much debt that immediately they will want only one thing: to feed this nation. That's why actually all these things are more and more empowered through the paradox of security in this world. And you need to strongly understand that it's never about generational wealth creation of just having one apartment, just having a house, just to be a small person. It's about everything. Every small ownership is about everything. If we, the human beings, decide that we will never own, then we are going to be owned once we allow the physical matter reality to be owned, then it's much more easy to allow our bodies, somebody else, to decide about our health. Then it's much more easy to allow somebody else to constantly telling us what to think, how to imagine, what to imagine, and so on. That's why it is so important to understand that ownership of asset is part of your personal security here on this planet. Did I know this before? Am I only for money? Do I want just to show you what is behind the mindset of a rich person? A lot of rich persons even don't understand how interconnected we are and how important this is to understand everything that is out there, because of course, in any moment, all of us can have nothing. We'll be happy, of course, but we are happy also with excess. And it is creating, actually, paradoxically, much more security when excess is in the hands of the people, and not like it's a new tendency where the governments are more and more intervening and have more and more power through which they are controlling. So I speak with a lot of people that they think that maybe if we create a different country, if we go to a live one, if we become expatriates, or just we become some type of people that are flying away and are trying to find our next country where we can spend a little bit much more time, or whatever. And whenever I don't like my country, I go to another country. No, the best solution is each of us on individual level to start creating and have our personal individual assets that are creating our long-term stability and protection of thinking, of expression, of who we actually want to be and are. That's why it is very important. And of course, the big primary asset that everyone is fighting for on this planet is the human capital. Without the human capital, nothing is possible to happen as movement on this planet. Of course, there are a lot of thinkers that are proposing to all of us that if there is no humanity, the universe is going to flourish. But there is a purpose for humanity, because humanity is creating meaning. Humanity, through its consciousness, can actually be beneficial for the universe and for everything that is in the physical matter and the non-physical matter reality. That's why it's very important never to stay only in the spiritual realm, only in the invisible realm, but we need, all of us, to allow ourselves to embrace excess and to be also very strongly impressive and impactful into the physical matter reality of ownership and having. These three principles of being, doing, and having are very important to master all of them. And then comes the secondary assets, which a lot of us know, residential and commercial properties, because from the primary assets, we are creating other multidimensional assets. Businesses, what is businesses? There you put the capital, the human capital, and the other type of capital, you put specific probabilities, you put specific intrinsic assets, such as brands, such as intellectual properties, and we are creating each other these so-called invisible business structures that are actually constantly giving us, all the human beings, a lot of benefits in the physical and non-physical matter reality. So is it good to be owner of a business or just a worker in a business? It's two different type of mindset. But if you want long-term to be an influencer, it is good I know about this new tendency where everyone is willing to be his small business of entrepreneur, where he's the only one playing and working in his business, but it's actually not a business. It is a job where you are 100% paying to yourself. But anyhow, long term, if we are learning and understanding the value behind businesses, we can go strongly into buying businesses. Even when you buy shares, just imagine you are going in a Starbucks every day and giving €5 or €10 for a coffee. Just imagine what is going to happen in the same Starbucks if you're giving your €5, but in the same time, you know that you own a share in Starbucks for, let's say, €1,000. You are going into the same coffee and you know that part of this money that you are spending are coming back into your pocket as a gain long term. I know we are strongly now into the short term. Is the market going up or is the market going down? But what about ownership, long-term ownership? And these secondary assets where we have shares of businesses, where are the bonds, the derivatives that are giving yield and so on. I'm not 100% specialist, though I have an economic degrees, but I want long-term overview to understand what is beyond these things. I don't tell you go into the crypto, go into the financial markets. You can do whatever, but if you want to decide to go and to invest or to have more, you need to very clearly understand what you are doing with the scarce amounts that you are having daily. And the other thing which is important is the capital gain, because you have two things in number 4 and number 5. You have the ROI. So a property is a multidimensional because it is a mix between land, between commodities. When the land and commodities are rising in price, your properties are rising in price. You have rents and dividends by owning a property that you are not using because you are giving the usage of this property for somebody else to rent and are creating benefit for them. But also long-term, you have a capital gain that all these properties are rising in value and they are keeping you against the inflation. To some extent, the capital gain we see a lot in the shares. They are going up and down depending on how the company performs. And the capital gains is also seen very well in the collectibles. In the collectibles, we have the luxury goods such as watches, old cars, paintings. And I don't know if you know, but a lot of banks are allowing as a collateral collectibles. So whatever the banks like, it is good actually for all of us to have. Then there are a lot of different strategies, and the problem is that a lot of us know a lot, but we are not willing to do a lot because of these limiting beliefs that we put in ourselves, that we long-term don't want to participate in the excess game of having more, and that long-term this is bad for humanity. We can have such opinions, but through this program, I'm going to prove you that otherwise is also possible and otherwise is also beneficial for humanity. So if you go into the assets that are giving you only a return of investigation or are giving you only dividends, you need to understand that assets also have amortization. And when you are working strongly to the firms and companies, you have a lot of write-offs. And I'm really very interested, and I don't understand why people all over the world are hating paying taxes. To pay taxes is actually one of the most beautiful things that all of us can long-term do, because it gives you so much power, actually. I don't tell you just to pay the most possible expensive type of taxes. You can do a lot of different ways in which you are not paying a lot of taxes, long-term or short-term, but actually you need to be proud and happy and grateful as a human being when you are paying your taxes for the benefit of all. If we have such an attitude, only then we are going to have more accountable governments. And with the paying of the taxes comes also a lot of possibilities for write-offs, for amortization, which is additionally helping you to succeed and to use these assets for building this generational wealth. Now I'm going to speak a little bit about the internal assets, because a lot of the people with which I'm interacting, and I see that now it's very modern, almost there are no materialists left. Everybody's now into the spiritual. Everybody's into the mindset game. But I'm going to speak now about the principle HSDRC. This principle is about, you're going to see now, all the internal assets that are actually important for all of us. So first is the human being. Each of us are a primary asset. And since we are the closest asset that we have, we need to constantly invest, but not only in this mindset game of the personal development, because through it, you are just staying on the surface of things. You want to change your behavior, you want to change your mindset, and so on and so on. This is good, but it is very strongly on the surface. And actually, a lot of these human beings become so addicted into creating different hacks, biohacks, or whatever type of hacks in their mind, that they don't understand that we are much more than the mind, and the mind has its reason in the conscious living of the human being, but this is not enough. We need to invest a lot into our heart set, gut set, and care set. Only if we understand the wholeness of the human being and the way it interacts in reality, and this is something I'm strongly working with and explaining in my ready and finished program called Ruling Reality Basics. There you are going to understand why you, the human being, are the biggest asset you can have. And when we are working, actually we are trading our asset with the company for which we are working, this invisible organization, and we are receiving back some money with which we can survive or we can invest long-term. I'm not against work. I'm working in the moment in my company. I have been always working. I love working. I love using my human asset. While I'm doing with you now this webinar, though it is 100% free, I'm still using what I already invested into myself, and I have invested approximately $25,000. And I'm not speaking about all the other things through my life that I have done, but it is only in this specific 2-year period in order now to share this with you 100% for free. But what I'm more interested in, to be more and more of benefit. It's very important. The second asset is the social asset. You have heard about networking is your network, is your net worth. Yes, maybe this is so, but you need to understand why the social asset is very important, why it is so important, the type of people you are communicating with. If I communicate in my nation only with the Bulgarians, and I never communicate with other type of people, maybe in 5 years, I'm going to become such a nice, beautiful nationalist that can prove you that everything in this world depends upon my dear country, and everybody is fighting against our small country. I have seen this nationalist beautiful or not so beautiful thing in all different countries around the world. I see that all the governments are strongly feeding into this. It is not a bad thing because the cultures and we have a lot of uniquenesses and so on and so on. But long term, it is just telling you, and you need to learn how to network. Are you going to network only in some specific bubbles, or are you going to become a multi-dimensional networking being that can speak with poor people, that can speak with rich people, that can speak with his neighbors, that is a normal human being, and don't go into this elite mentality that some of us are more than all the others. Long term, it is going to play you a very bad problem for sure, because there is not such type of as an exclusive beings, more beings than other beings. So networking is important, and if you are rich, allow and surround yourself only with people that are less successful with you. You need to continue to experience what type of limitations other beings are having. You need to support the poor. You need to help and elevate, or even show them that you a lot of time are as helpless and as them. Don't go into this mentality, no, I want to be rich and I want to be surrounded only with rich people. You can go into this direction, but long term, it is not going to create for you a sustainable network asset that is giving you a balance. The same thing with the cultural asset, with the family asset. All of these are very important parts of the social internal assets. Then what about the dimensional assets? We, the human beings, don't understand that there is not only one dimension, the physical materiality dimension. We are multi-dimensional beings, and we need to constantly and strongly expand also this internal asset that we have. We need to understand the oneness, but from the right perspective, because there is a lot of delusions also there. The wholeness, the connectedness of everything, and the alignment between all the dimensions, and why we, the human beings, are border zone creatures. This is part of my Ruling Reality Basic program also, and it is fundamental, because if you want to create generational wealth, you need to understand actually why and how reality is working, because it's never about the riches and the physical matter. Reality, manifestation of everything that is out there, the realm of effects. It's interesting to play with, but this is a byproduct of more other deep things that are happening. And then what about the reality? Is the reality an asset, Alex? How the reality, my personal reality, can be an asset for me, and why you are a ruling reality coach, and what do you want to prove? I want to 100% share with you and express with you that according to me, we the human beings have our internal part. Also, we have our external expressions to the psyche. We have our body, but because of this interaction, all of us are creating their own personal bubbles we call reality. I have a personal reality that is much more different than everyone else's reality. But also what is very important is that you need to constantly develop this internal asset we call reality, and to know what more and where are you investing in, and what new experiences are you going to have in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And there, if you go into this direction of understanding these internal assets, you are going to understand the meaning of limitless being, experiencing daily the reality limitations. You are going to express and understand, and you need to strongly invest into the interactional part of the reality. of the objectiveness in reality. Constantly, you need to fight all your delusions and strive yourself to be a much more objective being. You can never go long-term into generational wealth if you cannot stay objective about the reality. Of course, you are long-term going to understand that it is not by you. It is not your reality. We are living in a holographic reality. Me interacting with all of you in this holographic reality, it creates layers upon layers upon layers. And that's why in some country there are so good conditions for business. In some country where a lot of people that are investing a lot in their internal assets are creating nations where more and more possibilities are coming to them, and a lot of new probabilities are allowed to be revealed in their realities, and they're becoming richer and richer, and the long-term human investments are going more and more into this type of nations. The fifth thing, which is very important as an internal asset, is the so-called conscious asset. There is our consciousness, awareness, intent, and the realization of our connectedness to the source. A lot of people are saying that actually what we, the human beings, are here for is to produce the consciousness that is out there. We are part of the big consciousness structure that is surrounded around the universe. Yes, this is so, but long term, when you open your eyes, immediately you need to know that once you become conscious, then you start gather awareness, you enjoy every experience, you use your intent, you connect and align to source, and you start investing. You start exploring, and you're working also with this part of your internal assets. And then it is not only individualized, it can become part of quadrant 3, where is our collective internal, where we as a human being can become more aware of who we are, we can become a more conscious. And that's why there are a lot of conscious businesses. There are a lot of businesses that are more and more caring about the surrounding. And this type of businesses are thriving more and more, because exploitation long-term is not the path that can bring us to sustainable growth. So now we are going to finally conclude with the ultimate asset. We have external and internal asset, and we have only one ultimate asset. True wealth is to be connected to the source of wealth. If we cannot find this in our life, a lot of religious people that are believers in God, they think that this is enough, but this ultimate asset is also to be developed. I personally am a Christian, but this doesn't mean that I daily don't invest into connection, into more deep realization of the source of my life and why I'm connected internally, I'm connected in health, and every time I want everything to go through the source for me, I rely for nothing long-term on the government or external physical matter reality, power or organization to support me. I can support a lot of them, I can pay my taxes, but I want to be constantly and long-term securing my source of wealth connection, because everything is coming from there into the reality. This is the most dearest part of me. I'm constantly willing, not exactly to protect, but to experience, even if they take or you give away all your assets. The ultimate asset of the connections and alignments that you have created in your experience, nobody can take away from you, because constantly, long-term, by consciously investing into this experience, in your subconsciousness, you are building more and more of this ultimate asset, and it is more and more forming you back. So there are a lot of external benefits when you are aligned and understand what is the source of your wealth. So thank you for watching this small presentation. It is only one day of 30 of Beyond Success reality program that I am presenting, and I'm going to allow everyone that is willing to go into this program. And the cost for this program is $1,000. And also long-term, I create a bundle of my 2 programs where whoever is willing can have the 2 programs for the price of $1,000. Also, because I'm anyhow rich, and this is not something from which I'm long-term willing to earn money. For me, more important is to give the value that I'm anyhow using in my own personal reality, and I'm, through my assets, receiving quite much wealth and abundance. But I want long-term to help you and to have this transactional exchange, because it is long-term going to be your investment into your human capital, and I don't want to take this away by giving you the program for free. So thank you for watching. You can go into my webpage, alexanderromankov.com, and you can see what I can offer long-term. Bye-bye.